Sports podcast.
Welcome to the All Sports Podcast with me, Matt, and today, Joel. How are you, mate?
Hey Matt, all good mate, how are you?
Really good, thanks. And James, how are you?
All good. Been a while. Happy to be back.
Good to have you. And Femi.
All good, mate. You'll think me being here the last couple of weeks would actually lead to my name being called second, but not here and there.
Oh no, it's in age order. Be just about podcast appearance order. We'll have to have a look at Joel and James's. But yeah, what did you go back on probation for? Oh, turning up late to the podcast. Yeah. So you're still on probation. I mean, you were late today. You were 7 minutes late today. So.
If I was 7 minutes late, James must be in half an hour then.
Us with you.
No, James wasn't supposed to be here, so this is James gets a pass on his lateness today.
He's not happy with that.
Plus, it keeps the people on the audio platforms on tenterhooks. They're like, is Femi there? Is Femi there?
Yeah, sorry to disappoint you on audio platforms. He is here. So we will kick off with the Champions League. Champions League final this weekend. Inter Milan versus PSG. We called it that Inter were going to be incredibly hard to beat with that defensive setup and absolute masterclass from the coach. How did it play out?
The exact opposite of that. They were so bad, Inter, I thought.
I think it was a case of that. Inter lost it rather than PSG won it, or a little bit of both.
I think mostly the former than the latter, personally. Like, PSG did everything right, made good decisions, executed in key moments, but I just thought Inter looked desperate from the start, defended desperately. That's why DeMarco finds himself 4 yards deeper than everybody else for that second goal, and then he's running across the face of the goal to try and make up for his error. And they were like that. I think that was a bit of a microcosm for what they were like. They were just reacting to what PSG were doing, but terrified of what they could do to them at the same time.
Yeah, I think it was quite an interesting tactical battle, especially seeing PSG kick the ball out for a throw-in with the first kick of the game. It's very much like they had box press. They wanted them in it from minute one. And I think for the first half an hour, Inter were just strangled. They couldn't get out. They couldn't really get any control of the ball like they wanted. And you don't see it a lot, teams that play back threes like they do, because you usually see centre-halves passing in between themselves and you get a bit of a boring game. But Inter, the press was just phenomenal.
They're crazy off the ball, PSG. The intensity that they press at and the amount of the game that they're able to do it for as well. Staggering.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the team that they've moved from over the last few years to what they have. They had a front three of Neymar, Messi and Mbappe. They could never have ever played that style before. But the youth that they have, and I think Luis Enrique has a lot of credit to take because he's even got Dembele working harder than anybody else on the pitch. These guys are putting in the yards. So like you say, it's just not for half an hour of the game. It's 90 minutes every single game.
Literally.
It was interesting listening to the Stick to Football podcast with Thierry Henry over the last week. And he was saying about one of the elements of the game. What are you good at? And people talk about the on the ball stuff. They talk about the dribbling. They talk about the crosses, the finishing. But he said he learned to love the press, the off the ball stuff, loving to do the press, being that first line of defense and chasing them down. And he said what they did in 2006 with Barcelona in that Champions League final. That's exactly what we got from PSG this time around. This isn't the PSG that we've become accustomed to. They've been loose. They've been really attacking, but they've been loose over the last 5 years since they've had the big investment. But this has been quite transformative and could be a new era in Champions League football.
I think it's really exciting as well. Doué was brilliant, man. So young. We talk about Lamine Yamal, but Doué, I think he's come alive, especially in the Champions League. He dominated even against Arsenal. He had a really good performance. Against Liverpool, he also, showed up and showed out. I think he won the Young Player of the season for Champions League. I know that the Barcelona fans probably have a lot to say about that, but I think it was very well deserved. I think throughout the whole tournament, he was brilliant. Dembele, as we know, probably Ballon d'Or winner. But I think similar to what Joe said, like Federico, what's his name? DeMarco. In the famous words of Arteta, if I say what I want to say, I'm suspended 6 months. That's probably the worst defensive performance I've seen in a long, long time for such a big occasion as well. In the final, to be so loose, so easy to beat. It wasn't like it was like he wasn't even there. Do you know what I mean? Like he was playing the game, was playing his own game. If I'm even being honest, like if I'm being so critical about him, like he just wasn't there. Like it was basically 10v11. With how poor he was. I mean, the rest of his teammates weren't as good anyway, but they were just so poor, so easy to beat, so easy to read. Like even in attacks, like they did create 1 or 2 chances if they did score, we might be talking about a different game. But there wasn't anything I saw that would have made me think Inter had a chance. It gave me PTSD, man of the United Barcelona 2011 final, where they just absolutely ripped us apart. It was just men against boys in that game.
They had the youth and the pace and the power of the midfield just highlighted how sort of sluggish Inter's box was. Like the Barella and I can never say his name right, Kogologlu, whatever his name is, Hassan.
I
Yeah,
think it's Chaneloglu, but
Calhanoglu, yeah, close. I can never say that right. They looked like they were in different leagues of like not only physicality but like the technicality of those midfielders for PSG. They never looked out of control. And when you get that early goal and a second one as well, like Inter will just looked pretty much shell shocked. And they were never really going to get back into the game at that point just because of how PSG play and how quick it is. It's just difficult to pin a team like that.
I think, the fact that the goals came quite quickly. So the first goal and the second goal were quite close to each other, but the third goal and the fourth goal were also quite close to each other. And I think that shows that's more PSG and the fact that they're so relentless. And if they sniff a weakness, it gives them more energy, and then they kind of like James said, just strangle the game. And I feel like they did that in the short periods after scoring. But I feel like there were just swaths of the game in between that where Inter just weren't really able to impart themselves on the game, really.
A word for Hakimi as well. What are we doing, mate? Scoring the first goal in the Champions League final, you choosing not to celebrate. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's awful.
What are we actually doing, man?
Yeah.
I mean, you see the contrast with the academy player who's come on.
Yeah, he went crazy.
Yeah, he went crazy. He went nuts. Like, you think he scored the World Cup, but that's what football's all about. Like, you score goals and you celebrate. Like, this is the thing of dreams, and then you don't take that for granted, regardless of whether you're playing against your old team or not. Like, you celebrate. It's the Champions League final. No one's gonna hold you.
I wouldn't say it was that. Like, there's no rivalry between Inter and PSG. Like that was the first time they'd ever played each other in a competitive game, which I found absolutely nuts to learn. And these players around European clubs tend to these are the kind of clubs that he'll move back to, and he doesn't want to sort of ruin that bridge. He's played there, he probably enjoyed it. I don't have a huge problem with it, but the way he played itself was like his position was so strange because Doué was quite inverted and playing in like a sort of right-sided 10. He was playing right wing half the game. It was just mad to watch.
I mean, look at where he is for the goal.
That goal, exactly.
That's what 11 minutes in.
Yeah, there's no concerns, there's no caution. He's like, I'll score it. I'll tap this one as a right back.
And I think that's why, like you mentioned DeMarco, but I think Dumfries was really poor as well. And I think the reason that those two struggled so badly is because of what those PSG fullbacks do to you. Like, then it means that you've got the front three of PSG are kind of attached to the back three of Inter. So then Dumfries and DeMarco feel like they have to deal with the fullbacks, but they're pushing so high, so wide, so quickly. And, their job within the team is not only to defend that space, it's to go the other way as well. That's DeMarco and Dumfries that I'm talking about. So they probably got just stuck in the middle, trying to overcompensate.
They just had the overload on both sides every single time. And you just saw how much space and time they had. There was points in the game there where there was all 10 PSG players probably camped within like the 40-yard zone because as soon as those fullbacks were stuck at the back, they couldn't get out because as soon as they left them, you've got a 5v3. I mean, it does highlight how good of a manager Luis Enrique is, but it's not a fairy tale. Like, they've spent a lot of money over the last 10, 15 years, and this is what they would have expected 10 years ago. Like, this isn't like an unexpected game. It was just the way that they played football was something that everyone, this is good to watch.
I also
The way
think
that they've transitioned it though is now they were just buying players in, right? They were just adding world-class talent. They've transitioned it now to investing more broadly in the club, and I think that was probably symptomatic in the average ages of the team. Like you had PSG's average age was 25 in the starting 11, and Inter's was 30, nearly 31.
Yeah.
yeah, proper athletes.
Profile of the player that they're still signing world class players. They're just
Yeah,
signing younger world class players now.
I think
Third highest wage
yeah,
in
I
Europe.
think you got like the fact that they're signing players who are really comfortable on the ball, like not just athletic pace, power, but actually comfortable on the ball. Like, I mean, look at United. We signed Ugarte from PSG. I'm sure they were laughing when we started to pay as much as we did for him, you know. And you hear him all the time, you know, when they've got the ball, you know, it's a fight, but when we've got the ball, you know, it's a match. But his skill set doesn't really match that. And then you look in comparison with, you know, Neves and what's his name? The other, yeah,
Yeah, in February, yeah.
yeah. You know, he played for Wolves as well. Like he played in the Premier League. And I saw after the game, the Premier League Twitter Twitter page tried to give him a shout out. I'm thinking like, mate, this
Coutinho,
Coutinho, like, yeah, almost like
that is tenuous, isn't it?
embarrassing.
You know what, I actually didn't realise that was the same player. He played in COVID year at Wolves.
Yeah,
I don't think he played very much at all.
nah, he
19
didn't play that
games.
much.
But he looks like a different breed of player now.
I just think that those three, if you look at them on paper, I just don't think you'd expect them to play the way that they do, but they do. Like they're unbelievably physical. Like the way they move across the pitch and the aggression that they have in their game. I don't think you'd expect, and both sides, like on the ball and off the ball.
Mhm.
I almost don't think you'd expect that, but it's there every time I watch them.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's an
Neville kind of
interesting.
replaced Verratti because they had like similar roles, you know, technically gifted, but also, you know, they're going for the tackle. He's never shy, you know, to make a tackle. You know, he's got that strength as well, that lower body strength, you know, Verratti used to have. And you know, just similar players. So I think credit to Luis Campos as well. You know, he's recruited correctly. You know, just the whole team, even from the president, you know, down to, you know, the fitness staff, like they've just been brilliant.
They've recruited for the system very well. Like I don't know if you saw the clip last year. It's like a clip of Luis Enrique trying to coach Mbappe 1-1, and he's
Yeah.
like trying to drill into him the importance of working hard. And obviously, it's gone quite viral because it's just never going to be Mbappe. So
Yeah.
he was never that fussed about losing him, I don't think, because if you want to play a manager's way, you're going to have to buy players that fit the system, and that's sort of what PSG have done, like very, very well.
To be fair to Mbappe, you scored when you've won the World Cup and you scored a hat trick in the World Cup final. You know, without having to do all those defensive things you're being, you know, told to do. Like, you know,
Yeah, I'm not saying he's
International football, though, I would say it's very different.
Yeah, it's also not like he's a bad player. Like he still scored a lot of goals for Real Madrid, but for the way
Yeah.
that Luis Enrique wanted his team to play, he was stuck in two phases. He had this new wave of playing, and then one player who wasn't buying in. Which then, you know, if I'm a 19-year-old and I see the best player in the world not working better, like why would I do it? Like I think I want to be like him. It's
Yeah.
just like a culture thing, isn't it?
Yep.
I think I just want to close out on the point that James made about it not being a fairy tale. And I am a bit annoyed about some of the fawning over PSG in general. You know, they've won it. Fair play to them for winning it. It only took £2 billion and state-backed project.
I mean, the interesting thing,
they're
if you
not
look
the
at the
only team
season,
to spend though.
there's two times in the season where they looked a little bit rocked, right? In the Champions League, I say outside of the group phase, because in the group phase they weren't that great, but in the knockouts, they led for 3 minutes against Liverpool or something silly. They basically were never really in the game against Liverpool, won on penalty. They got absolutely rocked at Villa Park for 15 minutes and looked like they were going to, you know, fold like a house of cards. They did rally very well, but that team in the final was not what you saw in some of the games before. They really dominated from minute one. Yeah, honestly, I think as the game goes, like to the highest ever Champions League winning margin, that probably won't ever get beaten because they're usually quite cagey affairs. It's one that people are going to remember for a while because they played so. It's just enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. It's probably their best performance.
Yeah.
They were very good in the home leg against Liverpool.
Yeah, that was really
They
good.
were obviously lost, but they were very good in that. But yeah, I think that the performance on Saturday was kind of up there. But I do think that like Inter ended up being the perfect opponent for them because they couldn't hurt them in behind. They just don't have the pace to do that. They couldn't get the front men into the game, really. And once you take DeMarco and Dumfries that far back and swarm the midfield the way that they did, I feel like it just ended up being a template for them.
It's going to be a bit of a bloodbath to watch. Will be PSG versus Spurs in the Super Cup.
We were robbed, man. Barcelona,
Who's
PSG.
we in this scenario, please?
No. Like us as football fans, Barcelona, PSG would have been a final for the ages, man. That would have fed families. Oh my
Like
God.
it's kind of on Hansi
Oh.
Flick. I'm a bit like, why? All he had to do was just veer away from his principles slightly, just like maybe not play such a crazy high line just for a few minutes, and they might have got through. But he just threw pragmatism out the window.
It was Inter played their best game, didn't they? So
Yeah,
and got it, and that was their final in essence.
I mean,
They were two crazy games.
starts for Inter. I can't
Who's that?
believe that. Mkhitaryan.
Mkhitaryan,
Yeah. They're just like leggy midfielders that used to be good 5 years ago.
They got to the final.
Over to F1 then.
Quite a lot happened.
Quite a lot happened in the last 5 laps of the race. Nothing happened in the race, and it was as expected, pretty much in qualifying. And then, as you'd expect with Barcelona and Bahrain, that are the test tracks that everyone knows inside out, it is quite processional. And then Kimi Antonelli's car failed, and he parked it on the gravel, and therefore we had to have a safety car for a very long time while the car was recovered, probably too long. And then it was a little bit of bumper cars with Max Verstappen to finish the race. James, pick us up from the restart of the race behind the safety car.
I will do. I would also just say that Barcelona was very interesting this year because of the tyre choices. They went quite soft on tyres for the compounds, and also the weather was quite warm, so the track was very warm, and the tyre deg was like a big part of it. Everyone sort of tried to go on a 2-stop, apart from Verstappen, who had a planned 3-stop in place. So the restart really came at a bad time for him because he was on the worst set of tyres possible. He was on hard tyres. He had no other tyres to use. If he had a decent set left, he'd have probably been in a much better chance.
For those that don't know, the hard tyre would have gone longer and degraded less, but has less grip and takes a bit of time to warm up. And then from a restart against soft tyres that have high grip for a short amount of time, that started him off.
Yeah, so that restart, you could see him really trying to work his tyres. And Rosberg was on commentary this week, and he's always, because he's very honest and he's quite obviously very insightful, which I didn't know. You see drivers like left, right, trying to warm up their. Rosberg was like, there's never been anything proven that shows this works. Like, it's more, I think it has to be like a mental thing. There was a famous clip.
The wobbly.
Yeah, the left.
Yeah.
I think they're all like this. There's a famous clip.
Swinging it from side to side, trying to put some heat into the tyres. He said it's never been scientifically proven that makes a difference. And there's an iconic image that he referenced as well of everyone doing it going down the main straight, and Kimi Räikkönen, the Iceman, is just driving dead straight down the middle of the road while everyone else is swerving around him. It's a great image.
So yeah, Verstappen's trying to fire up these hard tyres. Everyone else has got soft and mediums in. And a safety car restart, obviously, out the last corner, the leader sort of restarts the race with his own decision to start. He peeled away. Verstappen slammed his foot down. His back end's kicked out on the end. Like he nearly put it in the gravel. He's managed to just keep it on. Leclerc sort of bumped in as he's gone past. And then Russell, in my opinion, at the first corner has pushed Verstappen off the track, which has led to, for some reason, telling him to give the position back, which is meant to prevent you getting a penalty, basically, if you do something wrong.
It was probably a little bit 50-50, and I think the stewards would have said it was a racing incident, especially as it was a first corner after a restart. But yeah, like James said, they got on the radio and they assumed that he was at fault, and they told him, give the position back.
And they've said since that they wouldn't have
Red Bull got it wrong.
Made them do it. Yeah.
So Verstappen's already fuming because Leclerc's touched him on the straight and he thinks he's bashed him out. And then Russell's pushed him off track and he's been told to give it back. So he's completely lost his head. Goes to let Russell round and for some reason just decides to swerve into him and they collide. Like they bang their wheels.
Yeah, so he slowed down, gave Russell the outside of the corner to go around him. And then his telemetry apparently showed that he didn't brake. He just drove straight into George Russell's side.
I think he accelerated from the
Well, it looks like he accelerates because he didn't brake, and George obviously was braking for the corner. Yeah.
Yeah, so red mist has just gone over him. He's just gone straight.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they kept both cars on track. Like going at that pace into that sort of corner, I thought they'd sort of wipe each other out. Verstappen and Russell have some pretty big history as well in the last 12 months. Like they've got into it a few times. But yeah, he's just completely lost his head, and the Mad Max term has come out. And I actually think for the first time I've seen him apologise. Like he put out an Instagram post yesterday saying what happened shouldn't have happened. So yeah, the weird thing is he was just becoming a little bit more likable as well, and he just can't. He's a competitor, he's a racer, that's fine, but he just can't accept if he's got to do something he doesn't want to do. He's like, no, I don't care. I'm going to take him out.
It's pure petulance, and it's just really dangerous. Something could have gone badly wrong if other cars are around them as well, puts them at jeopardy too. They're driving cars that don't have a ton of protection. They've got enough if they roll and things like that, but the cars aren't designed to be bumper cars. And a car going into you, tires obviously puncture really easily, go off track, anything can happen. You can catch a wheel underneath you and flip the car. So it's really dangerous. I mean, you bump into someone in the supermarket with your trolley and you give them a little bit of a slam in anger. We've all been there, maybe just me. That's
in the supermarket.
This is why I'm not allowed to go shopping. In a Formula One car at 130, heading into a 90-degree corner is a very, very different thing.
I was kind of surprised there wasn't any damage because he hits him hard, doesn't it?
I think he hits him into the wheel, so
into the wheel. Yeah, it's a wheel on wheel, isn't it?
George did say I've got damage, but I think George would have said that regardless.
Yeah, he was playing the game. They gave him a 10-second penalty.
So what's the deal with that? Because they've basically said it's deliberate, but then only giving him a 10-second penalty for
so causing a collision, is a 10-second penalty. What you struggle to prove is malicious intent.
Yeah, it's been done before. Michael Schumacher got done for it many years ago with Jacques Villeneuve, and he got disqualified from the entire championship. The crashing.
Vettel did it against Hamilton as well in 2014.
In Baku, yeah. But yeah, they could have thrown the bucket in if they'd have been able to prove intent. But
it could have got DQ'd in the race. If they had the telemetry data in race, they probably would have done. It was only retrospectively, but obviously in the race as well, they made the instant decision to give him the 10-point. What they also did do is added 3 penalty points to your license. What you usually get for an incident like that is 1 penalty point on your license. So getting 3 penalty points is quite significant. Are you allowed 11, James?
He's on 11. If he gets 12, you get a race ban.
Yeah.
Can he do the speed awareness course?
He cannot do the awareness course in this case. I think he's been going too fast. Yeah. Straight to jail, do not pass go sort of job.
You have some sympathy with him in this.
Here we go. This is a hot take. Go on, then.
Well, I just think they put him in a rubbish position. I think his team put him in a moment where they probably knew that he was fuming in a rubbish position. Why would they do it? Are they trying to save face? Is there some tactics involved there?
Because the safety car just been out. If they'd got a penalty, they'd have dropped to 7th or 8th and lost quite a lot of points. If they just let Russell go by, they'd have lost 2 points. But they didn't expect Verstappen to crash into him, get a 10 seconds and lose all the points. Yeah, you can see why they did it there. They messed up. That's on them.
Yeah, you understand him being frustrated, but then you verbalise that over the radio to your engineers. You don't ram one of your rivals with your car.
That's inexplicable.
Could you imagine if you saw the mist when you're driving on the road and you just slam your car into another car? Because that is in essence what has happened.
It is, but we're not in I'm going to speak for myself here and say that I'm highly competitive environment when I'm driving on the road.
Yeah, I just think that the apologising is big for him. That's very unusual. So I think he'll be.
Well, he didn't say I'm sorry. He said it shouldn't have happened. But he could also equally flip that and say what shouldn't have happened is my race engineer telling me to give the position back. So he's still not saying I'm sorry, George, for slamming my car into yours. He's not gone that far in the apology.
You can't really expect him to go that far.
But I think he probably knows that's his championship over, which is why he was so annoyed.
So it drops him down to 49 points off.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is the two McLarens, whoever qualifies first is going to, because the McLarens aren't actually that great at following behind another McLaren. Like, it's quite hard to overtake one. So they're in like a qualifying race. Whoever tends to qualify in front will win the race. And I don't know if you watched qualifying, but Rosberg went through it really well. And he was essentially saying that Lando was just overdriving. Like, he looked so desperate to put it on pole. He was making himself go slower. And Piastri, like cool cucumber, like just doing the right things at the right time. And I think he was like 0.3 quicker in the end, maybe 2.5.
He was incredibly fast.
So yeah, those two are going to have a proper ding dong now between now and the end of the season.
I think it's a bit of a shame. I feel like heading into this season, it was like this could be the most open F1 championship, both for constructors and drivers, for a long time. And it's ended up being another procession.
Yeah, we all thought that Mercedes and Ferrari were going to be more competitive too, didn't we?
Yeah, but they thought this weekend was meant to be readdressing that because they banned all the flexi wing stuff in the technical directives, which McLaren was known to have the best flexi wing, but it probably made them quicker, not slower, because everyone else was trying the same thing. So yeah, they're trying to bring the pack back together, but I do think qualifying can be quite competitive. But like Matt said, they just know these tracks so well. They know how to get the best out of these cars. It's going to come down to who has the fastest car. Somewhere like Barcelona. What's next? Canada?
Canada in 2 weeks' time. I watched an interesting clip with Oscar Piastri where they played him the sound of an engine going round a current track from the pit exit. By the end of turn one and into the first straight, he'd already identified what the track was. They just know it so well. He's like, oh, okay, that's a fairly long pit exit, could be the longest. So it's going to be one of two tracks based on what that first corner was. That is this track. And he was right. It was very impressive. But they know it inside out. They spend so much time in the simulator.
I was going to say, how do they do it? Is it all sims? Is it?
Yeah. Sims, practice, driven there for ages, visualization, all this stuff. But like, because he can hear the engine, you'll hear like a pit limiter that makes him only go X amount, and then he'll hear it kick up. Turn what I think it was Bahrain, the clip he's talking about. You hear like a quick succession of gear changes. Like, right, yeah, Bahrain. But yeah, imagine these guys at these races and these tracks. They probably have thousands and thousands and thousands of laps on simulators.
But you're right, Joel. Really processional from McLaren. They've already got more than double the points of the second place team. So they're on 362. Ferrari are second on 165, and Mercedes are on 159. And Red Bull, I guess, just Max Verstappen's points are on 144. Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, that second Red Bull.
Well, yeah, I think there's more going on. The qualifying, they said they'd messed his car up quite a lot, hadn't they? They put a weird rear wing on because I think there's some commentary at the end of the qualifying. He's like, done a good lap, and he's dead last. Verstappen even came out and said, look, Tsunoda can drive Formula One cars. It's not him. It has to be the car at this point.
As can Lawson, as can Perez now, apparently. Everything we said about Perez was probably wrong. It's taken several other drivers for us to actually decide that Perez wasn't that bad.
Not sure I agree with that, because when Perez was doing it, Verstappen had the best car. And Verstappen has the fourth best car now, third best car, and he's dragging it around by pure talent.
Yeah, it's still Verstappen is obviously the best driver. Yeah. And whatever the fastest or second fastest car would be, Max Verstappen's going to win the championship, but he doesn't have that at the moment.
Yeah, but yeah, Canada coming up. No Lance Stroll for a while, broken his wrist again, hasn't he?
Yeah, the gossip coming out about that is that he smashed some equipment up in the garage when he went back after qualifying and banged his wrist and his fist up. He's got previous for that. A few years ago, he had a shove and a go at his race engineer when he went back into the garage as well after qualifying too. So yeah.
Well, yeah, after they get a replacement in, they've got a reserve driver that should be good. I just wanted to just put Vettel in it for a race and see what happens.
I think it's yes, actually. No, this is interesting because they've got Drugovich, but it's Le Mans the same weekend as Montreal. So Drugovich won't be able to race because he'll be racing Le Mans.
He's already said he'd drop out Le Mans to race Formula One car.
Oh, does he? Interesting. Okay.
because he hasn't made his debut either. So it'll be his first time.
Expect to see Felipe Drugovich then.
Yeah, be cool. I quite like Canada as a track.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's a good F1 Montreal.
Although the little Sunday afternoon streak of Formula One has gone because 3 p.m. is a lovely time.
This isn't too late though. This is what, 5 p.m. now, or is it 8?
Yeah, no.
5 or 8. It's still quite nice. So yeah, heading to French Canada for the next Grand Prix. Speaking of French, let's detour across to Roland Garros for the French Open tennis. Femi, I hope you come back on screen because I know you're one of our biggest tennis correspondents.
You better cut that out.
Self-proclaimed. Come on, own it. Give us the rundown. How was week one? How are we looking for the finals?
NBA finals?
No, we are talking Roland Garros. We're talking quarterfinals, semi-finals, and the final this Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, Sinner, his last game was against Rublev. Absolutely destroyed them. If that's how you pronounce it. Is it Rublev? Yeah, quality game. Really enjoyed it. Like, I feel like he's just improved time and time again. He's a mold of Djokovic, Federer, Nadal. Like, all of them put in one. Like, he's a machine. Like, he is just a machine. I mean,
wouldn't you be if you were on juice?
I was waiting.
Allegedly. No, not allegedly, because he was guilty. He served his punishment. And what I would say about that is you can only go within the rules of the game. And if they've decided to punish him and ban him when there aren't any major tournaments on, and then he can come back and play the next major, then there's not a lot you can do against it, about it. So he's playing in the Grand Slam. He's served his ban, however short it may be. And yeah, he looks like he's back and going to dominate. I just hope we see a little bit more out of Alcaraz. I expected him to be the new king of clay. And with the big ceremony for Rafa at the start of this Grand Slam, I really want to see that transition properly across to Alcaraz.
I think I thought clay is more his specialty as well. But I think he hasn't taken it, by the what's the same amount of the neck just yet. I think there's still a lot to come from him, which is odd to say, given how brilliant he is, but he's been inconsistent.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like there's so much more to come. Djokovic has a tough route to the final as well. Yeah, he's gonna have to face some big names. If he, he's how greedy, man. Like already, how he's already got so much. So, but the fact that he's still competitive at this point, like credit to him. He got through Norris, dispatched him quite. So, oh yeah, Norris. Sorry.
Yeah, Cam Norris. Yeah, it's interesting. There was actually a little bit of British talent on show in this tournament, especially on clay, which is unusual that we had Cam Norrie and now world ranked number 4, Jack Draper. He needs to live up to that number 4 and be getting a little bit further in Grand Slams now. So hopefully with the home Grand Slam and him being on form, he's going to do well. He's going to do well in Wimbledon in a few weeks' time. But yeah, you're right. Like Djokovic has got a tough draw, and part of that is because his seeding's obviously dropped down a little bit because through his Andy Murray short-term experiment, he went on a bit of a losing streak. So he's binned off that Andy Murray experiment, and he's now coachless and is doing well again. Won the last tournament, and I think he's going to be a threat. He's definitely going to be a threat.
Always. Listen, like you said, it's good. We've got British representation. Obviously, I know they're both out now. But back from the days of obviously Murray, he was a really good ambassador of the sport. But Evans was probably the next best British, male player. But now we actually have world-class talent, Norrie and Draper.
Young Jack Draper. Yeah. Only 23 as well. So we've
Okay.
got a lot to come for him. He's got a lot of potential. High ceiling.
What's your prediction?
Alcaraz, I think part of that is Hart. Hart's let me down on predictions over the last few weeks, obviously with the Boston Celtics, but I think just on this one, I'm backing him with the transition from Nadal to Alcaraz for the French Open going forward. So yeah, I'm going to back him. He's got Sinner and Djokovic, one or the other that he's going to have to beat to get there.
Yeah, I think Sinner's just, for whatever reason, Sinner just dominates Djokovic, man. Like, it's weird. Like two machines going up against each other, but just one always seems to get the better of the other. So I think Sinner's just got too much at this stage. He's almost like an advanced Djokovic, which is hard to say, given how much Djokovic has won in the sport of tennis. But listen, there's always a new king on the horizon, and Sinner might just be that guy.
It's the usual faces on the other side as well with the women's draw. It's Svitolina, Sviatek, Sabalenka. So we're going to see similar ones. Although it was interesting, got knocked out yesterday? What's her name? Jess Pegula, who's ranked number 3, got knocked out by an unseed home favourite, Louise Boisson. So yeah, might get carried by the home fans, and we could see a performance out of her. As we know in the women's game, a lot of them can beat each other at very much an on the day rather than a form thing. So there may be some more surprises on the women's side of the draw rather than the men's.
Yeah, Coco Gauff, Madison Keys, the Americans, they always come out to play. Them two are probably my favorite after Sabalenka. So I think should be a good one on the women's side.
So next time we connect, we'll obviously have the winners of that. Also kicking off in the meantime, we mentioned my heart predictions with the Celtics. It's the only prediction that I've had wrong in the last 3 rounds of the NBA. So not too shabby. I called the Pacers to beat the Knicks, the higher seeded Knicks, and they did it.
Well done on that
the
one.
on form team for the last 4 months has been the Indiana Pacers, and everyone's been sleeping on them, and now they're not. Mr. Overrated has delivered, and he apparently is appropriately rated, I think. But he's going to come up against someone in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that is absolutely dominating the NBA this year. He's been MVP for the regular season, and he probably will be the Finals MVP too. And I'm calling it 4-1 to OKC in the Finals. It's going to be a very short week to finish the Finals.
Yeah, I agree. Can't see anything past OKC. I think even the rest has helped them a lot. They've just cruised past, all the other teams. I think Denver was probably the one team that gave him problems, and that's credit to Jokic, which is the reason why he was second in MVP ratings as well. So, SGA, not even just SGA, but OKC just have a deep team, man. Like that team is so deep, 1 to 7. I mean, we're talking about players who walk into, other NBA teams. So, they just, all they need to do is play decent. Not even play at their best. Just play a decent game. Don't get selfish. Don't let the moment, overtake. You just play just to play to the best of your abilities. They wrap this up in 4. Play a decent game. They wrap it up in 5. And if they're trying to make it interesting, maybe 6, but I don't even see it going that far. Siakam has been impressive for the Pacers. He won the Finals MVP, the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. I was surprised by that. I thought they'd give it to Halliburton, but Siakam, and I can't complain with that. He's been consistent. Times when Halliburton actually goes missing, Siakam still shows up. So he's been consistent all throughout the series. It was interesting. It was nice to see Caitlin Clark as there at the game as well. The face of the WNBA. So it was really good to see her there. But yeah, I think it'd probably be the least, watched finals, we've seen for years, because both teams, it's just not a big market. Like, we're talking about teams that just wouldn't put bums on seats, unfortunately, and even the prices of the tickets as well, because it still has to be high given it's a finals. I just don't see a way in which, they create that atmosphere where people can be excited for the finals. So, which is a shame for the NBA, because the Knicks being in the final would have been massive. Like, honestly, that would have been massive for the NBA, but I guess we'll go again next year.
Yep. That's about all on the NBA, I think. That summarises it fairly well. We've got a bit of time for other sport. What did we exclude? Oh yeah, cricket. In the England ODIs, Joe Root is still good at batting. Huge surprise. In golf, Scotty Scheffler absolutely walked the PGA and then won the following week as well. Yeah, normal order is normal.
You see Jack Nicklaus's comments in the press conference?
Now, what did he say?
He said, Ben Griffin is a nice guy, Sepp Straka is a nice guy, but no one's in the same league as Scotty Scheffler. I went, oh. I mean, he's not wrong. I do think these PGA Tour events, they're suffering from I don't want to give too much of a comparison, because I do think that Tiger was a bit of a freak in this period, but it's very similar to that sort of early domination of Tiger, where there's just not that much. and Scotty Scheffler is playing the most consistent golf out of everybody. There is some crazy stat about last X amount of rounds where I think Scheffler might have been 120 under, and the average of the rest of the tour was 8 over. That is how much he's dominating in the most recent period.
Hang on. I need you to say that again.
So I don't remember it. I was meant to write it down, but over the last X amount of events on the PGA Tour and the majors, Scotty Scheffler is 120 under for his rounds, and the average of the rest of the players in there, I think it excludes people that have missed the cut, was 8 over par.
Excluding people that have missed the cut. Oh my God.
I know. So there's just some crazy them. I find it and quite it properly, so maybe I'll bring it back next week. But it just wants to highlight the difference in him and everybody else at the moment. Like if you take out the major players, so at the major you'd have like Bryson, Rory, Rahm, these guys who can go toe to toe with him. He is making a mockery of everybody else. And the scary thing is Scotty's average golf is putting him top 5. Scotty's good golf is winning him events. Scotty's best golf, he's not catchable.
Yeah, I mean he's won that with quite a lot in hand at the weekend, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he's averaging a win on tour every 75 days in his career. Crazy.
That's insane. Yeah, we've got the US Open coming up in 2 weeks' time. At the moment, that feels a little bit processional for Scotty.
Oakmont is a difficult place to play golf. It's very easy to make bogeys and doubles, and it's going to be one of those courses where the straightest players who keep themselves in it. I think they were expecting like a level par winner at one point. I don't know how if they're still planning on making it that difficult. But yeah, I saw quite a lot of the press that the practice rounds and stuff, and they grew 4 or 5 different types of rough, picked the most difficult, and then planted that everywhere. So it's going to be good. I think the major season itself. So we've got the US and the Open left. I think Scotty gets one of them. I think that's probably pretty obvious to say, but I don't think it will be the US Open.
You think he's going to win at Portrush?
I think he'll win at Portrush. Just how good his short game is at the moment. He's finally worked out how to putt. I think the Open will be straighter. He's not erratic off the tee, but he can sometimes put himself in predicaments that I think at Oakmont can end up in doubles and triples.
So that'll be an interesting month's golf.
Yeah, well.
Do we have any other sports that we could possibly... I wanted to talk about the Giro, but we're not going to talk about the Giro. I'm just going to say, great to have Simon Yates win the Giro. 6-year redemption arc that he's been on. So that's great news for Simon Yates.
And that is the sport.
If you're listening to the All Sports podcast and you have done the last 50 minutes with us, then I'd be fairly sure that you're either a family member of mine or that you really do love all sports to have gone through that eclectic mix and finish off with the Giro d'Italia. But yeah, it was a brilliant race and a brilliant end. It was the penultimate stage of the Giro, and he was over a minute and a half down. He was actually in 3rd position, and he broke away and got onto the back of Wout van Aert, which is his teammate, and he pulled him up the climb, and then he finished it off really strong and managed to take the pink jersey. So he is, yeah. So if you have enjoyed listening along, if you are still here, the 3 of you, you can like and subscribe, YouTube and Spotify, getting in touch with us on email at allsportspods@gmail.com. And we will catch you on the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.